Ryan with True North Bushcraft, and I'm here today in Hiawatha, Ontario with Caleb Musgrave of Canadian Bushcraft. Caleb, thanks for being with us today.
Glad to be here.
Caleb, can you tell us how you became involved in the study of bushcraft?
It's kind of hard to say when I started. I remember being a little kid, 3 years old. It's strange to remember when you're a toddler, well, young age. But I remember my dad having snapping turtle and frog legs for us. And I remember being 7 years old having wild duck for dinner. And I remember being in the 6th grade butchering deer with my dad and going out and tracking with my grandfather. And getting into bushcraft, it was quite simple. I already was being raised in that lifestyle. All I had to do was step it up to the next level and start learning practical skills as well as primitive skills to live out here.
You know, one of my favorite subjects in the study of any wilderness living or bushcraft is acquiring food. From those delicious May apples that we had on the way in here to hunting live game. You know, there's while we've been here, you showed us quite a few different techniques for trapping and tracking wild game. Can you tell us a little bit of history about behind trapping and tracking?
Definitely. My background doesn't just cover bushcraft, but I work in archaeology quite a bit. And from what we've been able to find out, for sure, in Europe, the Neolithic era, which is quite a few thousand years ago, but not when Neanderthals were very common at least, we knew that trapping was happening. We know approximately, we guess, that in the Mesolithic trapping was really popular as well. And further you go back, the more evidence we're finding that traps were more likely to be happening than we believed before. We're finding fur-bearing mammals that are next to impossible to hunt. Their bones being found at kill sites and cooking sites and campsites from Paleolithic eras that's thousands upon thousands of years ago, way before the pyramids, way before any of the stuff that we have written down. We're talking really prehistoric stuff. So trapping has been in existence since time immemorial in that sense. We don't even know how long it's been around. There's even theories now that Neanderthals up in Europe, way before during the Paleolithic, used traps. So we don't know how far it goes back.
And in today's day and age, I mean, you know, we've gone over a few of the many different types of traps that there are, and you know, I'm sure that we only touched on a small portion of what you can do when you're tracking. When would somebody employ the techniques that you've gone over with us the last couple of days?
Oh, there's a few situations where it can be brought up. The majority of these would be brought up in a survival situation. I want to make something very clear right now to anybody listening in and watching this. It's illegal to trap without a trapper's license. And the majority of the traps that are in this video are illegal to use nowadays. They are inhumane in a lot of aspects compared to steel traps, depending on whose opinion you're listening to.
So outside of all the legalities and under licensing, or if you're a First Nations person, the only time you would employ these techniques would basically be in a survival,
Definitely
live or die situation.
You're talking about, you've been out there for, and again, human beings can last 3 to 5 weeks, depending on who the person is and what kind of energy level they're using. They can last without food for that long. But come the colder seasons, you need thousands upon thousands upon thousands of calories to keep yourself alive. And the plant life, like we're sitting here, we've got raspberry and dandelion, we've got plantain all growing around us. We can make a good meal here. But in another 3 months, we're going to be getting frost. All this stuff's going to be already dead. We can dig up some roots from certain plants, but over time it's just going to get harder and harder to do so. The ground's going to freeze, it's going to get covered with up to 5 feet of snow, and you're going to rely on those meat sources. And if you are, say, someone that's trapped out there, your snowmobile broke down, dead of winter, you need to know how to make traps. You need to know how to make fire, you need to know how to make a very, very safe shelter that's very warm and insulative. You need to know how to be able to acquire water in that cold. But finally, you need to know how to make traps, because you don't want to be wasting all your energy, all your heat loss out there trying to hunt down game when you don't even have a weapon to hunt with. You want to know how to make these traps because they'll do the job for you.
You know, during some of the examples that you showed us, you mentioned that there are 3 main parts to any trap. Mm-hmm. Can you just elaborate on those for us?
Yep. These things, the terms might be different depending on what school you're taught by or where you read it or where you learned it from. But 3 basic parts to a trap are the mechanism, the engine, and the trigger. And I like to separate mechanism and engine because there's a reason. With a deadfall trap, which is simply some sort of a prop or some sort of a support to hold a heavy weight up like a log or a rock or a big bag of bricks if you have them with you. Anything heavy to come down and crash on the animal and kill it or hold it down so you can kill it yourself. If you're using a deadfall, there's technically only two parts. You've got the trigger and then you've got the mechanism. The mechanism being the large crushing object that's coming down. And gravity is the engine. See, that's the little trick. Mechanism is the item that's actually going to do something. Engine is the thing that's going to make it do something. And the trigger is the thing that's going to activate the trap.
What would you say, you're lost in the bush, what is the easiest to build? What gets the best results?
Snares, hands down. In my time in the bush, I've set hundreds of deadfalls and hundreds of snares. And I can say that because it's true. In that time, I've caught, I don't know how many squirrel and rabbits. A plethora of them on snares. I've caught 2 animals in my entire time with deadfalls.
So one of the many things as a hunter myself, whenever you're hunting or trapping, there's obviously a certain amount of respect that you have to have for these animals that you're hunting or trapping. Can you elaborate on that for us?
The fact that you're going to go out and take an animal, if you're not doing ethically, you're doing it wrong. You're making an animal suffer. And the more it suffers, first off, some people actually say it's going to make the meat taste bad. So if you're someone that just likes good tasting meat and that's why you're hunting, then you might not want to make them suffer too much. You might want to be a little bit more ethical. You don't want to overtake all the food sources you have out there, especially in a survival situation. You want to get food sources in one place, move on to the next, move on to the next, move on to the next, so you don't deplete the resources. By the time you get back to that site where you were setting your traps the first time, the animals have replenished themselves, especially the small game like rabbits and squirrel. They can quickly take over empty spots. The Aboriginal aspect comes down to the premise that we are related to each other. Not just you and I, but to the plants, to the animals, to the trees, to the stones, to the water. This aspect comes into that whole web of life thing. If we affect one thing, just like overhunting in one spot, that area is harmed, and therefore we are harmed.
Now, if we could go back to the actual tracking techniques that you were showing, some of the things that you talked about were things such as the stain or transfer. The other thing that you talked about was different light angles and things like that. Can you just elaborate on some of those areas and things that you look for when you're tracking?
To me, it shouldn't be called tracking. It should be called spooring. But it sounds a little weird when you say spooring. People don't understand what that means all the time. Spoor is everything that is left behind by an animal, whether it be scat, which is fecal matter, a scratched post. Bears and a lot of animals will claw trees and leave a post. Same with deer. They will often claw and rub up against a tree and leave a mark. And of course, the actual track. But you can't always see that track. We were following a trail for a while and we couldn't even see where the tracks were yesterday. It's because the mud wasn't soft enough. But everywhere that there was water, we could see little stains here and there on the rocks. Stain and transfer are basically the same thing. Transfer or displacement are things that should be in one spot and are now moved to another spot. And that's really the premise of tracking for me. I listen with my eyes and my ears and all my other senses. You listen to that chorus, you see all the green, you see all the pattern, you see the color of the soil, you see all that. And then you let your eyes focus on what stands out, just like the blood. If that piece of soil is darker than the rest, why is it darker than the rest? I'm going to look at it and analyze it and continue on if it's nothing of interest. If it's just because that soil is darker than the rest, I'll leave it alone. But if it's been kicked up, or it's been moved from one spot to another, I want to know why. Things that can help are lighting and weather. Weather can help or it can hurt, depending on what the weather is. If it's nice clear skies and the sun's on a low angle, it can really make the shadows of those little tracks jump out, and you can see them a lot better. If it's at high noon and there's no shadows, it's really hard to see that track because it looks like the rest of the ground. So lighting is really helpful, especially in a clear sky, and even overcast on low angle, it really helps. But you start getting rain, it can really hurt you. The way it can hurt you is it can wash away the tracks, or it can make tracks that are brand new look very old. But the rain also helps you weather. Weathering is the age of the weather, and weathering is what's affecting the track, whether it be the wind, the rain, the snow, the heat, the dryness, the wetness, whatever it is. It's the environment affecting the track. Weathering helps you age a track. If you know what the last time it rained was, and you can see pock marks inside the track, you know that it's probably older than the rain was. You can see that they look fresher than the pock marks that you see on the ground where the hard rain's been hitting. And I saw you catch on to that very quickly as you were tracking. You can see that those tracks are younger than the rainfall. So it happened that morning. We had rain happen Monday night. It rained hard out here. And so all the tracks we were finding that didn't have pock marks in it, they happened that morning.
Right.
Because we were only out a few hours after sunrise.
Right. Now, if somebody wants to learn more about all this stuff, I mean, you know, in the short little video that we've made over the last couple of days, you know, only touch on just the very tip of the iceberg.
Very much so.
If somebody wanted to learn more about this, what would be the best way to do that?
The main trick is getting dirt time, and it's a saying, dirt time. It means time out in the bush, getting dirty, learning stuff. And dirt time is going to help you with fire making. Dirt time is going to help you with shelter building. It's going to help you with food gathering, such as tracking and trapping. It's going to give you information. The best way to do that is take workshops, take classes. I love promoting Canadian Bushcraft, that's why I'm here. So you can always take our workshops. We have professional trackers that come out and teach tracking classes. I'm a tracker myself, but I'm not a professional tracker. I'm a hobby tracker. I go out and find my own food that way. I'm a hunter-gatherer more than a tracker that's a naturalist. But we have professional trackers and naturalists that come in and do workshops so you fully understand everything. And they take you out and show you all the things. We have trapping classes. We have hunter-gatherer workshops. We have workshops for all the aspects of tracking and trapping and everything in between.
Now, one other thing I wanted to ask you about was in October 2011, I understand that you're having a gathering called the Harvest Gathering?
Yes, I'm part of it. I'm not actually organizing it, although I am part of some of the sorting out some of the information and networking and everything else. Harvest Gathering, this is the first time it's going to happen. We have a lot of things happening there. Pottery workshops, flint knapping workshops, all the way to tracking and trapping workshops. So people that are interested in this stuff more can come on out, and it's going to be happening from the 21st to the 23rd of October this 2011 year. There's a lot of things happening at Harvest, and it's going to be a fun time for everybody. And it's going to be something that is extremely unique. You cannot find it in Ontario. And I doubt you could even find something even similar to that in the rest of Canada. And I don't want to boast or anything, but I think it's even different than anything you'll find in America or anywhere else in the world. This is a very special gathering happening, and all are welcome. It's a fully inclusive gathering. No one's excluded, no one's pushed away. All are welcome.
Well, I know True North Bushcraft is going to be there, and I'm looking forward to it.
Glad to hear so.
Thank you so much for your time this last couple of days, and I look forward to getting out here and working with you guys again. And if you guys want to learn more, you can log on to CanadianBushcraft.ca or TrueNorthBushcraft.com and send us an email, and we'll get right back to you. Let's go take a look at some of those traps.
Definitely.
Right on.